What does the Trump administration's capture of Nicolás Maduro mean for China? Grant Newsham, senior fellow at the Japan Forum for Strategic Studies, says it's a real step backwards. China has been using Venezuela to expand its influence into Latin America and up to the Caribbean.
There's a kinetic aspect to this, where they have got signals intelligence. You could easily have missile platforms in Venezuela, in Cuba, up in the region as well. And they're looking ahead to a potential war, and having sort of assets or resources in place would put you in a position to launch some very devastating strikes on the United States if they choose their targets carefully, such as parts of the oil industry in Houston. Hit those with some missiles and shut them down, and the United States would be in huge difficulty.
Newsham also notes Beijing's support for drug gangs in Venezuela and other parts of Latin America.
That's an easy, low-cost way to really tear America apart. And this is in addition to their domination of the fentanyl trafficking in line with Mexican gangs that has killed almost at least 750,000 Americans since about 2012-13. And so it may not be a kinetic war yet, but the Chinese very much have that in mind.
In addition, Maduro's ouster could make other Latin American countries rethink their ties with China. A month ago, the Trump administration said it would reassert U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere. The capture of the Venezuelan dictator is proof of action. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has reinforced the message.
And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
It's a warning to adversaries, including China, which has been using trade and investments to pull Latin American countries away from U.S. influence. In recent decades, China has replaced the U.S. as the largest trading partner to many countries there. Beijing also had more than 20 Latin American countries participate in its Belt and Road Initiative, a project where China bankrolls infrastructure development to bring them under China's influence. Beijing has also bought stakes in more than a dozen major ports. It's sparking concerns in Washington that China could turn those ports into bases for military operations. Over in Panama, the U.S. and China have been wrestling for control over 2 ports in the Panama Canal. An advisor to Beijing on foreign policy says the regime's future economic cooperation with Latin American countries would probably be restrained by the U.S. Back to Venezuela, the country still owes China over $12 billion. Bloomberg reports that Beijing has reportedly asked its banks to assess their financial exposure to Venezuela. The move highlights concerns of the situation in Venezuela impacting China's banking sector. Impact with regards to oil is limited. Even though China has been the biggest buyer of Venezuelan oil, the imports only make up over 4% of China's total oil import.